Hi, this is Charles Kelly, author of the book Yes, Money Can Buy You Happiness. Now, you might be wondering how the governments are going to pay for all of this money that they've borrowed and printed and spent on our behalf, not actually with our permission, but actually spent in this year, which is hundreds of billions of pounds. You might be wondering how they're going to pay that back. There's been a lot of talk about it taking years to pay this money back, and how is this, children and grandchildren are going to be paying this money back. However, a one-off tax grab based on taxing wealth above £500,000, not a lot of money, could recover much of the, they're talking about 280 billion, but I think the figure will be higher, maybe over 300 billion that the government has spent fighting coronavirus this year. This is according to a group of experts, right? So maybe it's not going to be lingering around for years to come. Is they're going to tax grab or literally steal money over and above a certain figure. And this is not a conspiracy theory that there's going to reset the global economy, which may or may not happen, but this is fact. This is happening now, and this is based on a fact that the commission has been set up, led by Assistant Professor Arun Advani. I've never heard of him, at Warwick University, and this was set up around April of this year to look into this. So it's not pie in the sky. They're actually getting experts to look into this and look at the numbers and see whether this could be achievable. Now, so this is something the government don't set up commissions and spend. They'll probably spend £1 million just looking into this. So they don't set these things up lightly. Whether this will come into law or not is another matter. They've got to then go to Parliament and consider it, but definitely some sort of wealth tax is in the offing, and it's going to affect a lot of people, and I'll explain more about that. Now, measures that they are considering include a 5% levy on housing, pensions, business, equity, and savings wealth. So this is just a one-off wealth tax, or what I would call a wealth theft. And at 500,000, setting at a level of 500,000, this would affect something like 8 million Britons, or 1 in 6 adults, and they could all be hit by this wealth tax. Now, setting the threshold at £1 million would affect roughly half of that number, and setting it at £10 million would raise just 43 billion, as opposed to 280 billion from setting it at £500,000, would raise just 43 billion, and that would only be taken from 22,000 people. So there's only 22,000 people apparently who've got wealth at over £10 million in the UK. Now, bear in mind that the average 3-bedroom house in the southeast costs the best part of £500,000 now. This tax is quite heavy. I mean, it's going to affect average people with average size houses in the southeast. So let's look at this in more detail. Now, stealing money from people is not uncommon in Europe. There have been several wealth taxes in France and Germany, and let's not forget Cyprus, where the government stole its citizens' bank balances. I think it was just over any bank balances over 100,000 euros were just taken. Yeah, we'll have that, thank you very much, to pay for their mess that they had created. And this was after, of course, the top politicians and the judges had got their money out and were buying properties in London, because I spoke to a Cypriot estate agent that's told me that judges and politicians were buying flats in the West End on the phone, and they were literally just buying anything on the phone without even seeing them. And so this is something I've seen. It's not something you'll read about in the papers or see on the BBC, but this is from my own knowledge and knowledge of what's going on the streets. So this is serious stuff. And of course, the super wealthy can move their money around the world very easily, but the ordinary people like us, you can't move your house into Monaco. You can't sell your house and just get all your money out of the country. You've got family, you've got pensions tied up here, everything is tied into here. You're not able to be as mobile as, say, the likes of Philip Green. who's sitting in Monaco while his company's going to liquidation and while his pensioners lose out and while 12,000 people lose their jobs. He is on his yacht in Monaco, sitting very pretty. He's had his £12 billion in dividends, tax-free, in his wife's name, Monaco residence. It's in my wife's name, it's in Tina's name. All of the dividends went through her. £12 billion tax-free. He's ripped the guts out of the company and now is letting it go to the wolves by putting it into administration. He will walk away from that all those debts, all those tax liabilities, walk away from it scot-free legally, and he will just sit on his yacht enjoying Christmas. So, but the average person can't do that. If you've got one house and your money is tied up in that house, you can't get away from this. So there's not much you can do about this other than sell your house and run off somewhere. But where do you go to? You live here. And, I'm saying the average house is £500,000. Nearer to London, you could be sitting on a house of 600,000, £700,000, £1 million quite easily that you bought in the 30 or 40 years ago for £25,000. This is quite possible. So it's not people, these are people that might be teachers or civil servants or, not necessarily wealthy people that just bought their house in a suburb of London. When they were young, they saved and scrimped and borrowed and got their money together, scraped their money together to buy a house. And they suddenly find that it's now worth 700, 800,000 or £1 million or more. And they probably plan to use some of that money to help their children or their grandchildren buy their properties, because property prices have gone up exponentially compared to the average person's wages and salaries. So they're in a house now that a teacher could not afford. But when they were teachers, when they were young, they could afford the house. So it's not uncommon for people to be in this position, and they would expect that wealth to cascade down to their children. But no, the government and the Treasury said, no, we don't want that. We want to take our fair share of your wealth. And this is a Conservative government. Don't forget, the Liberals under Nick Clegg suggested a wealth tax to just, a property tax to just take money from people who've got expensive properties, but they should pay their fair share. Well, what is fair? Is it fair that people that have saved and put their money aside and done everything they can to sacrifice and save, why should they be penalised? And people who saved in pensions, why should they be penalised? Whereas people who've just blown all their money all their life will end up being supported by the state in their retirement, whilst others will have their pensions raided by a tax grab or a tax theft on their money. So I think it's completely wrong. Obviously, I think you can tell I don't agree with this. And another thing is that going into shops, have you tried using cash recently? Even after the lockdown, very difficult, isn't it? And phasing out cash for a digital currency would obviously make it much easier to just take your wealth, wouldn't it? Let's just have this bit. And in fact, they're actually looking now for £50 billion of cash in circulation. People are obviously hoarding a bit of cash or maybe unable to spend it. And another economist told me that recently he was looking at the average person's bank balance, and he found that it had gone up by £8,000 this year. Obviously, as a result, I expect of reduced spending and not being able to go out and go on holiday, and perhaps you're spending less on travelling to and from work. But the average person's bank balance has actually gone up in this year, despite all of the economic woes. So the government have got their eyes on this, and they're looking at this, and well, let's have our fair share of your money. Now, there's more bad news on the horizon here. Unfortunately, I'm sorry this is bad news, but this is due to the government stepping up measures to meet climate control targets. We don't even know if these climate control figures are actually correct. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories here, but some of these measures may be wrong, that maybe they're not going to do the job that we expect. They're just based on a few scientists getting together and saying, this is what you need to do. And in fact, one of the measures that they're talking about is phasing out fossil fuel burning boilers. And the average bill for making your home more energy efficient over the next 10 years could be as much as £8,000 per household. And as I said, fossil burning fuel boilers will be phased out altogether by 2028 and gas boilers by 2030. And this is 9 years' time. So if you just bought a gas boiler that you expect to last 10 or 15 years, forget it. You know, they'll be phased out. You'll have to replace it. The government is also expecting to bring forward a ban on gas boilers going into new homes, which was going to be 2025, now 2023. They're looking at these electric-powered heaters, you know, some sort of boiler, electric boiler, pump boiler that will heat houses. Apparently they're more efficient. Still, you've got to generate the electricity. Where they're generating electricity from, you know, from oil-fired and nuclear-powered generators. It's not all coming from wind. Don't forget that. There's no way it's all going to come from wind. So this is what's going to happen. And the government is also expecting us to eat, well, listen to this, talk about the nanny state. They're expecting us to eat 9% less meat by 2025. So you better, you know, stock up on your steaks and that sort of thing. By 2025, you're going to be, it's only 4 years' time, expected to eat less meat, 20% less by 2030, and also reduce our consumption of dairy products, your butter, your milk, your cheese. Reduce that by 20% over the next 10 years. I mean, how does that affect the climate, eating a bit of cheese or some eggs or whatever? So this is really us being told what to do. We're under control now. We're under big control. Where to go, where you can go at Christmas, what you can do. This is really more than the nanny state. It's almost like a police state. You know, local authorities now are going to be sending out people to check on people that should be self-isolating. They're going to be calling on people that they've tried to reach by phone, literally knocking on your door and saying, where are you? And if you're not there, you're fined. Now, we're also going to be forced into exchanging our old petrol cars for overpriced electric vehicles over the next decade. That's assuming there's any road space left for us to drive on, because emergency powers are closing down roads, they're closing down parking spaces, they're doubling the size of bus lanes on major roads in town like the Euston Road, building massive bike lanes, etc. So, and they're also planning to extend the congestion zone around London right out to the north and south circular roads. They're already put in the congestion charge for 7 days a week up to 10 o'clock at night. And that's really going to help the West End shops, isn't it? Thank you very much, Mayor Khan. So an electric cars, where they're generating the power for all this electricity. A neighbour of mine has got an electric car. He leaves that thing on charge more or less overnight every day. He goes into town to work, comes back, it's on charge overnight. Where is that electricity coming from? From big towers that burn fossil fuels, I expect in most cases. So, you know, these plans are, okay, they all sound very good, don't they? We're all going to be living in this greener world. But it looks like you and I, householders, are going to have to pay for all of this somehow. Now, this week, Boris Johnson is making last-ditch attempts. He's going out to meet the head of the European Union to you know, it's a bit of a grand scaling thing to say, oh, look at us, we're going out to have this last-minute meeting, you know, to secure a deal. But he's only going to meet one person. Any deal that she agrees would have to be agreed by all of the other countries in the European Union, and I thought the chief negotiator was Michel Barnier. But personally, I think what will happen, we'll end up with some watered down deal, perhaps selling some parts of our industry down the river, maybe the fishing, I don't know, and we'll end up with some fudge of a deal with concessions being made perhaps on both sides. But I just feel that the European Union is out to screw us in one way or another, unless we just walk away, which wouldn't be helpful to most industry, most businesses, and the stock market is obviously very nervous about that. In fact, the stock market went up this week on the news of this vaccine, and it's been rolled out already, despite the fact that there hasn't been as much testing as there would be on any normal vaccine or any normal drug. It would take 5 to 10 years to bring to the market. This vaccine's already been put into people's arms in care homes as of yesterday. And the pound also went down, in fact, on fear of a no-deal Brexit. But, you know, that's normal. The markets do react in this way. The shops, however, are booming. They had their biggest month on record, apparently, since the end of the lockdown last month. Supermarkets have had a great month in November. So, you know, I was in some shops the other day and they are busy. Things seem to be getting back to normal. But who knows what strokes are going to be pulled to put that into reverse gear. I don't know. So at the moment, as I said, not great news, but it is good news for some. It's good news for some of the shops and we're out spending money at the moment. But do keep an eye out for that tax grab theft on your wealth. That is, if you've got a house in anywhere in the south of England that you saved and bought many years ago, you could be hit by this, or you've managed to save something for your pension, that you're going to be hit by this tax. So thanks very much for listening, and have a good day, and stay safe out there. This is Charles Kelly, bringing you money tips to help you save, earn, invest, accumulate and enjoy more money. Thanks very much.